The son of a wealthy hedge fund manager is mentally fit to stand trial for his father's murder. That's according to a psychologist. Thomas Gilbert Jr. is accused of fatally shooting his father at his New York apartment after an argument over money. Now, two court-appointed psychiatrists previously found Gilbert unfit for trial, but the forensic psychologist hired by prosecutors came to a different conclusion. Thomas Gilbert Sr. was well known on Wall Street as the founder of Waynescott Capital Partners Fund. Police say his son tried to stage the murder to look like a suicide. Bringing in now our legal panel. I'm so busy talking about politics all day long. Brian Claypool is here. He's a criminal defense attorney, and Ebony Williams, an attorney as well, and Fox News contributor. Really good to see both of you.
Of course. Hi, Arthur.
Absolutely. You know what, Brian, I want to start with you on this one because you say that Gilbert is unfit to stand trial. What's your argument?
Well, Arthel, there have been two other psychologists who examined him, and they were what's called court-appointed psychologists. So they are neutral examiners of Gilbert Jr. So I would make the argument that you have two neutral psychologists who have examined him, examined his past medical history, his past psychological history, and they have determined that he is unfit to stand trial. Arguably, the psychologist hired by the prosecutor is tainted or biased because he's hired by the prosecution. And I would also cross-examine him vigorously to find out what's the basis for his finding. In other words, the following questions have to be asked. Did you actually examine Thomas Gilbert? How many times? Did you examine all his past psychological records? Did you interview his prior psychiatrist? Did you interview family members to make this conclusion? So I think there's a lot that can be said for Gilbert being unfit to stand trial.
Well, let me see if Ebony can answer some of your questions, Brian, because I understand that Ebony says the way that the DA psychiatrist sees it is based on money. He's hired to support their argument. Take it away, Ebony.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, Brian's right. Certainly, it's been my experience that prosecutorial expert witnesses, guess what? They side with the prosecutor's stance on the case. But listen, there was an exam here. It was only 30 minutes by this DA expert, in my experience, for this type of comprehensive capital offense. I mean, I think that's short. I would like to have seen a longer exam, but he was talking about the here and now. He was talking about, do you understand the proceedings against you, and can you help out with your own defense? If they feel like the answer to those questions is yes, I think there is a reasonable basis to find for competency. Now, that's different, though, than when he gets to trial, if and when he gets to trial, and they have to talk about not guilty by reason of insanity. Right. That's a different standard.
Right. Yeah. Arthel, if I could add something, the problem with the prosecutor's psychologist is he's taking a quick snapshot, a current snapshot into the life of Gilbert Jr., and he's not it's like taking a book and reading the conclusion, but not looking at the first 10 chapters of the book. This expert witness has to delve into his entire life. You can't just spend 30 minutes with him, do a quick interview, and say, okay, he's fit to stand trial. Maybe at the time this murder happened, Thomas Gilbert Jr. was delusional. Maybe years ago he was treated for psychosis. Has this expert done his due diligence to reach this determination?
Well,
I don't
so
think
do
he
you
has.
think, Brian, that if it goes to trial, the mental health defense will fly?
Well, I think you've got two. Ebony's right. You have two things. If it goes to trial, he can still argue insanity.
I know.
And
I
that's what
asked you,
James
do you
Holmes
think
did.
that'll work?
Right. Well, it depends, Arthel, on the evidence of his prior psychiatric history. If there is evidence of him being treated, for example, for delusions or psychosis, if he was on medication at the time, if he wasn't taking his medication, those are all factors you have to look at
Ebony,
to make that determination.
If he was on medication at the time, would the medication cause him to stage the crime scene to look like it was suicide?
Right. What Brian's talking about, Arthel, prior medical history, whether he was on medication at the time, his state of mind is what we're all talking about at the time of the crime, is important at trial. But for right now, let's slow this timeline down, right? For the purposes of competency to stand trial, we're really talking about his state of mind right now. And if these experts feel like collectively, and now Brian's right about this is going to be up to the Justice Melissa Jackson. She will decide who's more credible, the independent witnesses or this state supported witness. And she will decide, look, who's more credible here, and she will decide whether his state of mind is fit to stand trial.
Right. Well, I have to leave it there. Brian, I didn't mean to side with Ebony so much, but she went to Loyola Law law school in New Orleans.
There we go. Shout out to New Orleans.
You know, exactly. So I am on her side a little bit.
I don't hold that against